In Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, we follow a young Furiosa as she grows up to take on revenge on those who did her wrong as a young child. Alright, so not beating around the bush, and Anya Taylor-Joy, she's great. I love her as an actress, but this is Chris Hemsworth movie. They should have titled this Dementus, because not only is Chris Hemsworth more so at the forefront of this movie for like the first hour. This is very much focusing on Chris Hemsworth's character as Dementus kind of rising up in the Wastelands. But Chris Hemsworth in this role is such a blast to watch. Because really, when you think of Chris Hemsworth, if you're a geek and a nerdy film watcher like me, you think of Thor. You think of the noble Thor. And this character is the exact opposite of anything that Chris Hemsworth has done as Thor. And he is honestly brilliant as this role. He brings some dark humor to this character. He is ruthless. He is savage. There is so much that Chris Hemsworth does for this villain that makes him one of my favorite villains that we've gotten all year. They also gave the character a lot more depth than expected. As much as you get to learn about Furiosa's past and beginnings in this movie, you also get to learn a lot about Chris Hemsworth Dementus in this movie, understand his motivations. And for me, whenever this movie had me smiling big, it was when Chris Hemsworth was on screen. I felt like he is what really brought life to this movie. And that's not to put a knock against Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa in this movie, because Anya Taylor-Joy, she is good in this movie when she's in this movie, because that's kind of the weird thing about Furiosa. It's titled Furiosa. Furiosa is throughout the entire movie. It's just not always with Anya Taylor-Joy. There's a young actress, Alyla Browne, who plays the younger version of Furiosa and Anya Taylor-Joy as we are watching her story progress. And she is in a large majority of this movie. I don't think she's getting enough credit for the fact that she's kind of really the co-lead of this movie with Anya Taylor-Joy, because she provides a lot of the sympathy that we have for Furiosa throughout this movie. She has to carry like the first hour of this movie on her back, really emoting with just her body and facial expressions, and she does a really incredible job. And because she's so young and you get the glimpse into Furiosa's young life, when she becomes Anya Taylor-Joy is so closed off and so reserved as Furiosa that really the only thing that has me connected to her is the fact that I got to see this young performance from this young actress and get all of that sympathy through her. Because it's just easy to feel bad for kids who are kidnapped. Like, what can I say? And the casting on her was absolutely incredible. She looks just like a young Anya Taylor-Joy. It really helped me buy into the fact that the actresses are the same person, because this movie does span over the course of like a decade, maybe even a little bit more, of Furiosa's life. And they decided to go about that in chapters. This movie is split up into chapters, focusing on periods of Furiosa's life, which in some ways I thought that really worked for the movie's advantage, because it does give it this epic type feel and scale to it. It feels like a movie of old, like Ben-Hur, where we follow this character who was done wrong in their youth and they grow up to eventually go after the person, get revenge on those who did them wrong. And that's another thing about this movie, because this is a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, which Fury Road was one of my favorite movies when it came out in 2015. The practical stunts, the explosions, the big giant car chase across the wastelands that it is so exciting and thrilling. And Furiosa, while it has moments of that, it's not really that kind of movie. This movie really is more of an exploration of the wastelands, kind of the politics behind the wastelands. And while you do get some pretty fun and riveting action sequences throughout the movie, this movie does really focus more on the world building and the expansion of the wastelands. And once again, George Miller does kill it with that aspect of the film, because it's very immersive. I was so into this world. All of the set designs, the set dressing, the wardrobe that they have these people wear, it really does work to develop you into this reality that George Miller is creating and has created since like the first Mad Max movie. And so going into this movie, you can't be expecting another Fury Road. And another part of that is with the action sequences, because like I said, some of them are really thrilling, some of them were really riveting. The problem that I found with the action sequences is, while there are moments you can definitely see the practicality, you can see the stunt work being done, there's also a lot of CGI elements mixed in with the action, and actually just a lot of CGI elements mixed in throughout the entire movie, which results in this movie sometimes looking gorgeous and looking great, especially on the big screen. And then other times, it doesn't look so good, and those imperfections really stick out, especially on the big screen. There are honestly a number of times where the CGI I felt just didn't really hold up. It made everything kind of look a little phony. Characters were clearly standing in front of green screens, or at least the background was very blurry. That gave the effect that they were standing on a soundstage in front of a green screen. And when those moments do come in, they did take me out of the movie quite a bit. Also, as mentioned before, this movie is told in chapters throughout Furiosa's life, and there was an aspect of that. Maybe it was just the lens I was looking through while I saw it when I was watching the movie, but there was something about this movie that kind of felt like I was watching a made-for-streaming show that they just kind of strung all the episodes together and decided to put it into theaters. And using chapters to tell a narrative story is nothing new for movies, but in this movie in particular, it just kind of felt, I wonder if there was some kind of motivation of like, this is gonna be on HBO Max soon, let's build it, let's structure it in a way that it will feel kind of like you're binging a TV show, because some of these chapters would end, and I would expect credits to start rolling and the play next episode button to come up in the lower right corner of the screen. And I can't help but feel that some of that is contributed by the fact that, like I said, the visual effects sometimes in this movie do kind of look like streaming, because streaming and theatrical effects, they've kind of blurred the lines with those. Streaming has some really great effects in their shows nowadays, and sometimes that's how this movie looked to me. And the level of streaming effects look good on TV, but they really stick out on a movie theater screen. And I think another thing that kind of lent itself to that feeling is some of these chapters are really long, and some of them don't need to be as long as they were. I did feel the pace of this movie quite a bit. This movie felt quite longer than 2.5 hours to me, and there was a couple chapters where it was just kind of one big car chase for Furiosa to meet a character, and it's like, okay, the car chase would have been more fun if the CGI elements didn't stick out so much and it was a little bit more exciting in that sense, but it also kind of felt like a filler episode within the movie. We probably could have skipped that episode, probably could have condensed that episode down into the previous episode, so to speak, in streaming terms. But even the additional scenes that are in the movie, they're not necessarily bad. They just add to the runtime, and sometimes I did feel the length of the runtime. In the end, was Furiosa the movie I was expecting and hoping to get? In some ways, it was. In other ways, it wasn't. I wanted more of that practicality. I wanted more of that real visceral feeling that I got in Fury Road. And I felt like the action sequences here, they played more like CGI, sometimes video gamey, than Fury Road did, which was a little disappointing. But what this movie does have is great performances, great world building, a fantastic antagonist performance by Chris Hemsworth. I loved him in this movie. When they show the practical effects, or at least don't cover them up with CGI elements, the stunt work is phenomenal. And I really liked the way that George Miller expanded and got us more into the world of the Wastelands this time around. So there is some really great stuff with Furiosa. There's some mixed elements to it as well that I'm feeling. But overall, I would recommend Furiosa, especially in the theater. I thought that it was a really big theatrical experience. The story, like I said, does feel like it has an epicness to it. And I would give it a solid recommend. Anyway, guys, those are all my thoughts and opinions on Furiosa. What did you guys think of Furiosa? Did you have a chance to check it out yet? Comment down below. Let me know all your thoughts and opinions. Before you go, you can check out some more videos over here. But if you're new here and you haven't heard, we have a goal on this channel. We want to hit 4,000 subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet and you like talking about movies, you like talking about action movies, Mad Max movies, just movies in general, we do that all the time over on this channel. Consider hitting that subscribe button before you make your way out. As always, guys, thank you so much for hearing me out, and I hope to talk to you guys again real soon.